This is the anatomy of a scream, the story of how a kid from a forgotten town took his pain and turned it into the defining sound of a generation. It begins in the bleak, rain-soaked landscape of Aberdeen, Washington, a place where logging trucks were the only things moving forward. This is where we find the punk rock kid, a boy adrift in a sea of gray conformity. He found his lifeline not in school or sports, but in the raw, unapologetic anger of punk rock. For him, bands like Black Flag and the Melvins weren't just a style, they were a survival guide. Punk taught him that you didn't need virtuosity to make a statement. All you needed was passion. It taught him that noise could be a message, and that 3 chords played with enough fury could drown out the entire world. This DIY ethos became his foundation, a belief that his anger was valid, and his voice, however rough, deserved to be heard. But beneath the ripped-up jeans and the snarling feedback, another sound was playing. This is where we meet the closet pop band. The central, brilliant tension of Nirvana was that it was punk rock written by a man who secretly, almost shamefully, worshipped the Beatles. While his peers were celebrating pure, unadulterated noise, Kurt Cobain was deconstructing the genius of John Lennon and Paul McCartney. We can almost see him, sitting alone with an acoustic guitar, humming a perfectly crafted, impossibly beautiful pop hook. Then, as if embarrassed by its own sweetness, he would bury that melody under layers of distortion, fuzz, and screaming. It was a perfect pop song desperately trying to claw its way out of a prison of noise, a beautiful contradiction that would come to define his entire musical identity. So, how do you build a bridge between the visceral rage of Black Flag and the melodic perfection of the Beatles? He found the answer, the sonic blueprint, in an unassuming band from Boston, the Pixies. This is where he becomes the noise architect. The Pixies had mastered a formula that was nothing short of revolutionary. The loud, quiet, loud dynamic. It was a structure that mirrored his own internal world, a whisper of vulnerability, a moment of fragile melody, suddenly erupting into a hurricane of rage and distortion. This was it. This was the key. He took their dynamic blueprint and supercharged it with his own unique anxieties, turning his internal conflict into a world-changing sound. The soft verse was his melodic confession. The loud chorus was his primal scream. And then, the formula worked too well. The sound he had forged in the obscurity of the underground, a sound meant for misfits in dingy clubs, exploded into the global mainstream. Suddenly, the outsider was an insider, and we meet the unwilling prophet. The man who built his entire identity on being against the system was now the face of it, his face staring out from the cover of every magazine. The very success that validated his pain became the ultimate source of his alienation. He had channeled his feeling of being misunderstood into a sound that everyone understood, and in doing so, he became more misunderstood than ever. The scream that was once a release became a performance, and the stage became the loneliest place on earth. In the end, we must look past the tragedy to see the true legacy, a beautiful, earth-shattering contradiction. Kurt Cobain took the raw anger of punk, the timeless craft of pop, and the dynamic structure of the underground to create an entirely new language for a generation that felt lost, angry, and unheard. His legacy isn't just the noise or the fame, it's the scream with a beautiful, heartbreaking melody hidden deep inside it. It's a sound that proved once and for all that vulnerability could be the most powerful and the most revolutionary statement of all.